Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, it is so great to have you. I'm Antoinette and I make videos talking about my life and all of my adventures as a New Zealander living in Germany. I definitely think that one of the most challenging things about moving to a new country is trying to figure out all of the cultural differences and cultural subtleties. There are certain things that may be considered totally normal and acceptable in your country that may not be so socially acceptable in the country you are living in. It can be so challenging and quite confusing trying to work out what to do, what to say, what is considered rude, what's not considered rude, or what is considered socially acceptable in that country, and sometimes you feel like you're walking on eggshells a little bit, and honestly the only way you can kind of figure this out is through trial and error. I will always identify as a New Zealander, and I often say you can take the girl out of New Zealand but you cannot take the New Zealand or the Kiwi out of the girl, and you know that is so true. In saying that, I have made a conscious effort to change some of these little New Zealand habits that may not fit in so well to German society, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. When you move to a country, I think it is important to sort of adapt a little bit. So anyway, in no particular order, I am going to be talking about 5 New Zealand habits I have had to break since living in Germany. So the first habit has to do with overthanking people, which might sound a little bit weird, but let me explain. So in New Zealand, if somebody goes out of their way to do something really nice for you, we like to make it very, very clear how thankful we are, and we will thank them not just once but like 20 times. So as an example, just say it's my birthday and a good friend of mine has come over and they've baked me this beautiful chocolate cake. So my reaction as a New Zealander would be something along the lines of, oh my goodness, thank you so much, it looks so delicious, oh my goodness, thank you, and you just have to make it really clear just how grateful and how thankful you are that they have done this. If someone does something really nice for you in Germany, you can simply say Dankeschön or vielen Dank, which means like thank you very much, and you don't have to say it a million times, you can just say it once. I didn't realize this, and I just thought it was really rude just to say Dankeschön like once. I just didn't think that was getting the message across enough. So I remember when I first came to Germany, I've mentioned before that Rob and I were living with his parents to start with, just to get our feet on the ground. Rob is my husband, my boyfriend at the time, if you don't know, and his mum used to cook the most delicious meals, and at dinner time I just didn't know how to thank her enough. Rob used to have to translate everything for me at the beginning because I didn't speak German and Rob's parents didn't speak English, and so everything I wanted to say to his parents had to go through Rob first. And so, you know, after a delicious meal I'd say to Rob, can you please thank your mum so much, it was just so delicious, like can you just tell her how much I enjoyed it. And then I'd hear him like turn to his mum and it would be like blah blah blah, and you know she'd smile and everything, and I'd say, did you thank her? And he was like, yeah. And I'd be like, what did you say to her? Because I could tell, even though I didn't understand German at the time, I could tell that what he told her was not what I wanted her to know. And he'd be like, I said thank you very much, it tasted really good. And I'd be like, but that's not enough, like you have to tell her like how good it tasted, and just say like thank you so much. And he'd be like, oh my goodness, it's fine, like just saying thank you once is enough. And I just, you know, I wouldn't accept that. So I've had to sort of change the way I thank people. Instead of just going on and on, I just sort of cut it short right now and just say vielen Dank, and realize that that is enough, and Germans appreciate that. Just thanking them once is enough. Another New Zealand habit I've had to break since living in Germany is apologizing too much. I've realized that New Zealanders apologize at the drop of a hat over anything, even if it's very unnecessary. So for example, just say a German has come to my place for dinner, I've cooked a meal, just say it's like a roast chicken, a typical New Zealand meal, and I have sort of left the chicken in maybe a little bit too long in the oven, it's not my best effort, and I will say to that person, oh my goodness, I am so sorry, this is not my best effort at all, I hope you enjoy it, but if you don't, like I'm really sorry. And you'll have to kind of explain yourself, and usually Usually a German's reaction would be like, huh? Like they'll look at you really confused, like, why are you apologizing? You don't need to apologize for something like this. And it's just something that I do. As a New Zealander, I always feel like I need to apologize. I'd even apologize for something as simple as somebody coming to my door and like I'm not wearing my makeup or I haven't done my hair or something like that. I'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry, you know, I look like really, really scruffy. A German would not apologize for something like that. It's just so unnecessary. You don't hear Germans apologizing a lot unless they really, really mean it. Germans would apologize for something important, like if they missed an appointment, or just say you're at the supermarket checkout and the checkout lady overcharges you accidentally. She would be really apologetic about that, but not for something like, you know, over cooking a chicken in the oven, or just for like not being dressed appropriately, or just they don't apologize for things like that, only if it's really necessary. And New Zealanders just apologize out of default. And I think I got this from my mum. Like, she apologizes about everything. I think like every meal she's ever cooked, she will think of something she's done wrong. Mum will often really like criticize her own baking and cooking and apologize for it. And since living in Germany, I'm just like, Mum, you don't need to apologize. Like, that's not something you need to apologize about. So since living in Germany, I definitely apologize a lot less. Like, I will apologize if I need to, if it's really necessary, but not for something really little or something that is just unnecessary. I won't apologize out of default like I used to do when I lived in New Zealand. Okay, so number 3, another New Zealand habit I have definitely dropped since living in Germany is just talking for the sake of talking. New Zealanders like to do this a lot. We would rather just talk instead of there being an awkward silence, even if we don't have anything useful or interesting to say. I'm not saying that all New Zealanders do this, but this is definitely a New Zealand habit where we just don't really like awkward silences. So we like to keep the conversation going and just, you know, just keep things kind of flowing a little bit. Even if we don't really know what we're talking about, we'd rather just talk than have an awkward silence. And in Germany, I feel as though silence is a lot more accepted and just a lot more normal than it is in New Zealand. In Germany, it's kind of like if you don't have anything interesting to say, then just don't talk, and it's perfectly fine. I feel like in New Zealand, if somebody's telling you a really personal story, you will constantly feel the need to contribute to that story. So as an example, just say somebody might be sharing the fact that their child has autism, or, you know, something like that, and you may not know anybody with autism, but you feel as though you have to kind of contribute in some way and be sort of relatable and realize that they, you know, make them feel like they're not alone. You may say something like, my uncle's cousin's sister is autistic, so I kind of know about autism, even if you don't. This is just an example. A German, if they knew nothing about that subject, they would just listen, or they would say, oh, I don't know a lot about autism, like, can you tell me more? So if you're telling a German something really personal, don't expect them to give you a lot of feedback. They may just say, oh, okay, and then say nothing else, because they just don't have anything to contribute to that. They don't know anything about the subject, so they would rather listen than have to continuously talk. And so, you know, that could come across as being a little bit rude to a New Zealander, not giving you any feedback or not kind of acknowledging your feelings or that kind of thing. But it's not the fact that they're being rude. They just simply don't have anything to say to you, so they're not gonna talk for the sake of talking. And so I've definitely stopped doing this since living in Germany. Maybe I do it a little bit. It's sort of like I feel the need sometimes to have to constantly, you know, give my opinion, even if it's, you know, it's not important or it doesn't add anything to the conversation, just because I want to keep the conversation going. You know, if I don't have anything that is worth saying, I'm just not going to say it. I'd rather just listen to what they are saying. Okay, so another New Zealand habit I have broken since living in Germany is not taking no for an answer, particularly when it comes to food. When I think about it, this is not just a New Zealand habit, because I have Mediterranean heritage on my dad's side, and I think this has a lot to do with like the Mediterranean culture culture, and it's sort of part of New Zealand culture too, but basically when it comes to offering people food, we do not take no for an answer. I'm going to use cake again as an example, but just say I've baked a beautiful chocolate cake and I ask somebody if they want a piece of chocolate cake and they say, oh no thanks, I will like give them a piece of cake anyway. Or just say they've eaten their cake and I'll ask if they want another slice and they say no, I'll just like give them another slice anyway. This is just something I've grown up with, particularly on my dad's side of the family. And my aunt, oh my goodness, if she has cooked something, you have to be so clear with her if you don't want any more, otherwise she is going to just keep piling up your plate. This is something I did all the time when I came to Germany, you know, with Rob also. You know, if I was serving up something on his plate and, you know, I'll say, are you hungry? And he's like, not really, I will give him like a massive plate of food. He'd be like, that's too much, I said I wasn't hungry. And he'd sometimes just get a little bit frustrated with me because he's like, I said no and you're doing this anyway. So in Germany, if you're at a German's place and they offer you a piece of cake and you really want that cake, you say yes, because you won't be getting that cake if you say no. They will take your word for it. No means no in Germany, and you won't get a second chance to have that cake. Also, when we go to Poland and we're visiting Rob's family and friends, if they offer you something to eat and you say no, they won't believe you and they'll give it to you anyway. And so yeah, Rob's familiar with this concept, but I think he's been quite Germanized in the way that he finds it a little bit kind of annoying when people don't take no for an answer. So yeah, that's definitely a habit I have dropped since living in Germany. I'm not saying I don't do that when I'm in New Zealand or I'm around non-Germans, but when I'm with Germans, I definitely take no for an answer. Okay guys, so last but not least, there is a New Zealand habit that I have kind of broken since living in Germany. I have talked about this quite a bit in my videos, but it's just so appropriate for this video. And this habit is smiling at everybody when I am walking down the street. This is something we do in New Zealand. We smile at strangers all the time. We'll give them this big smile, you know, we don't have to know that person at all. We just smile at people just all the time. And in Germany, this is something that is considered really weird. If you are walking down the street and you look at somebody and give them a big smile, if you're walking down the street and you smile at a German like a big huge smile, most likely they're going to look at you like, huh, do I know you? Or like, what's wrong with that person? And you know, I have learned this the hard way, because you know, when I first came to Germany, I'd walk down the street smiling at everybody and I would get looks of confusion. Who is this crazy person? Do I know her? Like, why is she grinning at me? What does she want from me? That will be your reaction if you do this to Germans. And I mean, I'm not talking about just like a little kind of smile, like a quick little smile. I'm talking about like a big cheesy grin when you're walking past somebody. It just doesn't really go down that well in Germany, and I was super offended by this when I first came. I just didn't understand why I couldn't smile at people on the street, why I would get this confused reaction, and I have just realized it's just something you don't really do in Germany. I mean, it's nice. I think it's a really nice thing in New Zealand when a stranger gives you a big smile. It makes you feel good, and you know, you don't think anything of it. It's just part of our culture. But in Germany, you know, if somebody smiles at you that you don't know, you're going to automatically think, what do they want from me? Who is this person? And yeah, and so I've definitely toned that down, and I still find myself wanting to do that sometimes. Sometimes even now, I'll just be walking down the street and I feel this urge to just grin at somebody, and I always feel a little bit disappointed when I get that kind of like, huh, look, like, what are you looking at me for? I know that when Rob came to New Zealand, he was so taken back by the friendliness and openness of just complete strangers and the way people would just smile and grin at you on the street, and it took him a little while to get used to it, and he really liked it after a while. It definitely took him a while to get used to this, that's for sure. And for me, like when I go back to New Zealand after being in Germany for a long time, it definitely takes me a while to get used to that again. And so that's definitely a huge cultural difference between New Zealand and Germany. I'm not saying that Germans aren't kind and open and friendly. Some of the loveliest people I know are German. I'm just saying that it takes a little bit longer for Germans to warm up to you, and they're not as open and friendly to strangers. And it's just part of German culture, and it's something I have have become used to since living here, and so I'm just not as quick to grin at people when I'm walking down the street. So anyway guys, I have come to the end of this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it entertaining. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. I would love you to consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. I still haven't reached my goal of 60,000 subscribers. Oh my goodness, I'm trying so hard to get there. It just doesn't seem to be happening. So if you would consider subscribing, oh my goodness, that would mean so much to me. Feel free to connect with me on Instagram, and I will see you again really soon. Bye!